It's back. The gentleman from Florida, Mr. Spano, is now recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. I wanted to talk about an issue that's on a lot of members' minds. The ranking member referenced it just a moment ago during his opening comments with respect to the COVID-19 virus. On Sunday, the first 2 cases of COVID-19 were diagnosed in Florida, one of which was in Hillsborough County, Hillsborough County being part of the congressional district that I happen to represent, which is Florida 15. It spans much of the area between Tampa and Orlando. And so most, if not all of my constituents, when they fly somewhere, they'll fly out of Tampa or Orlando International Airports. The airport I primarily use, Tampa International, announced that they've taken several steps to prevent the spread of the virus at the airport. So those steps include increased cleaning and sanitation of high-touch areas, providing extra hand sanitizer in key areas, reminding travelers and employees to practice good hygiene, and so forth and so on. A few questions related to this specific issue. Number one, if I may, I want to ask the panel, have you seen any similar actions at airports across the country? And if so, what are those actions? Anybody can respond.
I can speak to this. Apex provided guidance to all of our airlines, not just in the U.S., but worldwide, on 9 key steps that they need to be taking now. I want to stress to members of Congress and to members of the public, it is completely safe to fly right now. We have gone through this now and had different instances of people flying on aircraft. There has not been traceable transmission on aircraft to this date. We believe that will continue to be the case because there's vertical air circulation through HEPA filters that are 99.97 to 99.99% effective on board aircraft. With that said, the steps that we've outlined to airlines is clearly communicating to passengers and to staff the safety steps the airline is taking, broader waivers for changes and cancellations, which we are proud that several airlines in the U.S. have taken, enhancing customer contact details and traceability, so should we need to be able to have that on board. Flight crew awareness on how to act in this instance. We've dealt with tougher situations, for example, with Ebola, which created much more significant aircraft incidents. We haven't had those yet, but they are prepared. Aircraft decontamination procedures, having flight aircraft decontamination and procedures in place, for example, on door handles of restrooms and other high-touch surfaces. And then most importantly, to your point, Congressman, working with airports and government authorities to make sure that we are prepared, as Tampa has done, to have a cleaner environment on the airport side, because the TSA security area is a very high-touch area that needs to be more very closely maintained during this thing, and then enhancing the ability for airline employees and supplier staff to call in sick as needed so that we never have someone come on board the aircraft or to work that might be spreading COVID-19.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Leader. Anybody else? Mr. Rowe?
Congressman, I would just mention in our work, we found that all of the airports that we looked at, this was back a few years ago, had individual plans in place for dealing with situations like this. Some of the challenges we noted in executing those plans related to coordination and communication. Communication from federal agencies in terms of what they should be doing, what the real threat was, what the real issue was, and communication amongst contractors and others in the airport area to make sure that everybody knows what they should be doing. So I would just mention that those are the, I would also mention that we don't really have a national plan for the aviation system. This is a recommendation we still have open for DOT.
My next question was going to be what, if any, recommendations do you have as far as what we can do to support the airport? So that goes to that question. Any other suggestions on what we might be able to do in our purview to help and assist the industry as a whole, airports specifically? Mr. McGee?
Yes, Congressman, we've been looking at the websites of most of the major U.S. carriers, and to their credit, many of them have very large notices on the home pages about the coronavirus, particularly on international routes where they've canceled flights. But we've seen this before with other force majeure events, natural disasters, et cetera, that we think that communication could increase. For those that are not directly affected yet, in other words, if you're planning a trip and you're uncertain, the communication from the airlines could be much better. It's not sufficient.
Anyone else want to speak to that?
I think that what we should do from a U.S. government perspective to further enhance traveler safety is working with the TSA to make sure that we have, following Tampa's example, I would love to see the TSA have hand sanitizer available for passengers at stations, to have Lysol so that we, the fact that my phone is placed where people's shoes go in a TSA bin, it would be wonderful to have, during this time in particular, additional steps taken by the U.S. government.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. I yield back.